if you place an order in China, it may well be after they come out of lockdown that 2, 3, 4 months later, your production may only start.
I'm Bryce Gracie, host of the EZee E-Commerce podcast, and this podcast is dedicated to boosting your trajectory towards international success through connecting you with e-commerce and Amazon experts, all with something different to offer. Hello and welcome to the EZee E-Commerce podcast, sponsored by ZEE. Today we are going to talk about the increasing product producing costs, increasing costs of labor, as well as lockdowns, and how sourcing and producing a product in the most cost-effective country with the most reliable supplier can be a game changer. I'm your host, Bryce Gracie, and I'm joined today by quite a remarkably experienced individual, all the way from Germany. He is responsible for running and maintaining many different businesses in the e-commerce space. But today, he is representing Zignify Product Sourcing as Managing Director. Welcome, Sebastian Hertz. How are you doing?
Hello, Bryce, and thank you very much for having us. Doing fantastic, and I hope, of course, the same for you.
Yes, no complaints on my side. So maybe to kick us off, can you talk to us a little bit about yourself as well as about Zignify?
When it comes to e-commerce, my background in there is that we are Amazon sellers and brand owners ourselves. We have 2 brands, and I usually say I'm one of those dinosaurs on Amazon. I started originally in 2014. While I just said the company ABB, before that I was 12 years in ABB, which is one of the biggest companies in industrial automation, electrification. I'm an electrical engineer by university, but then started my own brands, selling on Amazon, selling also through retail shelves in Germany, through the biggest national retail trading companies as well. And at the same time, of course, we have had the need for sourcing our own products. And I was lucky enough to live 6 years in Asia, 3 out of that in China. And I got to know my better half there, Julia, who has been living for 9 years in China. And she has been doing sourcing all her life long. So that's been about 17 years sourcing in her own experience. I shouldn't really say that because people then usually can calculate how old my girlfriend is, or wife, however you may express it, and that may get me in trouble later in the afternoon. But this is of course how we also started then the sourcing business, and now we're doing sourcing not only in China, but also worldwide throughout Europe, EU, Germany, UK, sourcing from Mexico or South Americas for the US market, and lots of course focus on Amazon and e-commerce businesses.
But then if I had to ask, so obviously sourcing can be quite a hassle for e-commerce sellers in general. But what aspects of that does Zignify solve for?
So what we suggest very often to the very beginners, it is definitely worth going through the whole struggle of sourcing a product yourself. And my suggestion is do not contact only 2, 3, 4, 5 suppliers, but go through the full scope. You want to get the full picture. You want to contact as many as useful. Means we usually in China find research and contact about 30 potential suppliers for every specific product. In Europe, we usually go up to 60 potential suppliers and then start getting all of the offers, getting all of the proposals, going through them, checking the backgrounds, communicating with them, negotiating on all of those steps. It's definitely worth learning this yourself because you will see it's a lot of mafan is the Chinese word for trouble. We usually say that's a lot of mafan. But then you will also understand that you may spend your time, of course, a lot better on selling, on marketing, on making sure your product comes well on the market, as well as finding new products and solving all the other issues that come along. So what we do is we help all the other ones finding manufacturers all over the world. And taken off this burden of you, those hours and hours of work and the fine detail work of communication and negotiation. Usually up to a point that the whole logistics, including the shipment and so on, is solved until to the point where the goods go into the local storage, either in your own or into the Amazon FBA warehouse or into a local logistics provider.
Sebastian, tell me, I think I know the answer to this question, but maybe for the viewers, do you only source from China?
No. Very good question, but no. Of course, we started as we lived ourselves in China, and we have a quite strong team of, I think, about 14 or 15 ladies by now. Fun fact on the side, I'm the only 2.5% who are male in the company. Rest of our team is all female. Simply, we just noticed they're doing the better work, they're being more detailed, they're more patient, following up more. Women can easily work under women, and so on and so on. So we have a strong team, of course, in China with about 14 to 15 ladies, somewhere around there, with our own quality inspection. But we also have the rest of the team spread all over the world. So lots of them in Europe, Eastern Europe. We have team in South Africa, Turkey as well. I think we have 6 or 7 ladies in the Americas straight through. The only place we do not have, I think I will in the future only say literally women or ladies, because it's very unlikely we'll hire a man. Not in Australia, but there, would come high shipping costs, of course, as well, long delay times and so on. So we're sourcing in any country where it makes sense to find your product.
Brilliant. And would you say that there's a common trend over the past couple of months outside of China?
Yeah, definitely. In the last year, we had about 10% of our projects were outside of China. And by now it's about 50 to 55% of the projects are being sourcing from outside China. And that may mean other Asian countries, as well as, of course, European countries, Africa, or the Americas. There's definitely a huge trend. I mean, the main reasons usually are, of course, everybody's complaining about higher shipping costs. If you have 14, 16, 19K, whatever the trend was in the past for a 40 high cube container, as well, you have longer production times. I mean, not only production times, but of course the delivery times are much, much longer. Look at Amazon Global Logistics. They don't even start promoting below 100 days of delivery, and even that cannot be kept. Then you, of course, have longer production times. And if you look now, Shenzhen came out of lockdown. Shanghai is in lockdown. Beijing is going into lockdown. The order backlogs of all the producers in China, of course, they're growing and growing and growing. They're still getting massive amounts of orders, but that means as soon as they're coming out of lockdown, during lockdown, nothing is happening. I mean, the people literally, they're being stuck in their compound. You may not even leave your home compound. You may get the food delivered over the fence. You can't really exit. So no work is happening. That means that the order backlog, of course, also in the future is getting bigger and bigger. Means if you place an order in China, it may well be after they come out of lockdown that 2, 3, 4 months later, your production may only start. So there is, of course, big delays as well. Not only the cost, but also the time. And a fourth aspect that very often what we see many sellers tend to forget is the marketing effect. So much more demand by now is there to say that it's made in Europe, or made in EU, or made in Germany, or made in USA. We've even seen others using slogans, whether this is useful or not, but they're using slogans like "not made in China." So the marketing, of course, also goes crazy. And the more and more offers you see online, where you have higher quality, more and more of that made in Germany, climate-friendly batches given, and so on. So there is a much higher demand, of course, to also switch from the perspective of marketing.
I know I've definitely seen, I think it was visual satellite images of the amounts of sea freight that is currently in and around that Shenzhen port and within the China seas in general. And it's insane. So I'm not surprised that people are now using that "not made in China" as a unique selling proposition. Because it's, no company is wanting to wait that long and work with such a insane backlog, especially in the times of D2C and customers not wanting long wait times for their products.
But again, I mean, this is not the case for all of the productions. There's still some that are going on faster, of course, as soon as they're out of lockdown or they're in the region or in a city of China where there is currently no lockdown. So not to scare the people off. I mean, China production will still go on. And we're still, of course, happy to do also sourcing in China. I mean, it's a majority. If you imagine this, that 50% is being done by one country, while the other 50% drop over to the rest of the world. So it's still massive, massive production in China, and this will not drop away.
So then would you say that when sourcing in China compared to outside of China, would you say that there's a drastic increase in terms of sourcing costs in the more, say, the more European countries?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we wouldn't say a massive or a drastic amount, but you know, the Chinese, they have learned it over the last decades, and they're so used to doing private label, white label products. And I mean, I guess all of you know how the reaction usually is when you place a request for a proposal, when you ask the Chinese in the sales. They understood that you need to deliver service when you want to sell. So as you usually see them, they're answering day and night, they're answering during their national holidays, they're answering pretty much at any time and fast. We usually say that when we're, our process is that for every project that we're, or for every product that we're searching in China, we go specifically and start researching and contacting, like I said, about 30 different suppliers. And in China, the great thing is you usually have a conversion rate from request for proposal to proposal of nearly 100%. So you'll get an answer, you get a quote, and if you ask 20 or 30, then you'll probably get answers from 29, and let's say 28 of them directly deliver your prices, whether or not they can produce it. In Europe, or whether or not they produce exactly the same product, or of course try to sell you a different or similar product of whatever they're producing. In Europe or outside China, also in other Asian countries, it's much more the case that you need a lot longer and you need to put more effort in there of getting proposals.
Wow, that is quite
That's
a
still
big differential there. Yes. Okay, so then there's a seller who wants to work with you, right? How do they start? How would a seller work with you? And like, what info do you need from them, from possibly the brand owners, for a new product?
Yeah. The best thing is to, I don't know if you can see it here right now, it's go to zignify.net and just simply book a call, a 30-minute call. And all we would need from you pretty much is, what is the product that you want? Whether it's pictures, whether it's dimensions, tech packs, drawings or so, or it's even the link of your competitor that you want to, of course, compete with on Amazon. And of course, if you know the certificates that you need, tell us them as detailed as possible as you can. If not, also not a problem. And this is pretty much all we need. We get started, our ladies start researching, and usually we're usually quite fast, for the simple reason is that we have such a strong team by now, that we most of the time even have 2 people searching or researching for producers at the same time. Then in the next step, once we're through, you get all of the contact details from all of the suppliers we have. We check them through. How open are they for OEM? How easy are they for changes? How easy is the communication with them? What are the prices, of course? Can they produce the product? Do they have similar products in place? Are they a registered business, especially when it comes to China? Do they have an export license? Can we see if they have any financial difficulties in the market? Do they have bad reviews that we can directly see? And so on and so on. And then we come to you with a list of about those, whatever, how many proposals we got, 10, 12, 15, 20 proposals out of it, and suggest that, let's say, producer 3, 7, and 24 are the ones where we suggest, hey, go get a sample from them, and we can even continue then from there, that we check the samples to save you 2 or 3 weeks of time for no shipping to Europe, but we do the local checks, we do the local quality inspections, and so on. So that's just very much how it works. We'll get you onboarded on ClickUp. We are internally right now switching everything over to Microsoft Teams because we started with Asana, then we went over to Slack. Now we're using the ClickUp for the tracking of the customers, and for our whole documentation, we're using the Teams. So all we need from you is pretty much give us what product you want and tell us which country you want it from.
Yes. And I mean, for some, it may be quite a substantial investment, for others not really. But how big is the risk that is associated with this kind of investment?
Small, for the simple reason is because in China, we usually come back to you after like 5 hours and we'll give like the first review. Plus, we'll also, I mean, for every new project, we're looking into product anyhow to say, it's like, is that in general possible? Is it doable? And if we say, yes, it's doable, only then we start with the research of like, let's say 5 hours. So what's that, like 200 pounds maybe? And outside of China and Europe, again, those 7 to 10 hours after we, of course, have checked, like, hey, does that make any sense? Is it possible to source it in Europe for the prices you expect? And then it's, let's say, if it's even 10 hours, then we are at about 400, 450 pounds, if I have the math in my head right now. So that, of course, we want to reduce as much as possible.
Okay, cool. I guess, like, coming to the tail end of our conversation now, I'm very curious as to how ZEE clients would benefit from Zignify for their global expansion, and the benefits that you provide for that.
Well, anybody who needs or wants to sell new products and, of course, increase the business to cooperation with ZEE will need new manufacturers or extend the existing manufacturer base worldwide. And that's exactly where we can help. We'll do this for quite affordable prices, especially for Amazon sellers, for very affordable prices. And we bring a lot of experience in there. We've sourced more than 2,000 products, I think, so far. And I think if we say that we grew in 1 year and 5 months from 1 person to 43 in our team without a single advertisement anywhere, just some trade shows and corporations, I think especially the German Amazon founder market can say how this literally helps finding new profitable products.
That in itself is very advantageous. And I think ZEE clients would 100% benefit from that. And then I guess in the next couple of months, and let's say next 12 months, what would you say is next for both yourself and for Zignify?
I mean, we're quite known in the German market, or at least in part of the German Amazon market. We're working together with a lot more partners, building up partners, but also going internationally. So not only Germany, but of course the English-speaking market, and also heading over to the US to work with the US Amazon and e-commerce business. But as well, we're also doing sourcing for electronic giants who have difficulties finding, for example, semiconductors or computer chips at the moment. There, I have to say, they get a very different hourly rate because it's a much tougher business to find the electronic components, but we still do. So target for us is, of course, a lot more of a cooperation and healthy growth. So we continue building our own brands, but as well, we also want to help more and more customers in the Amazon e-commerce business worldwide.
Doesn't get better than that. I truly think. But I guess in ending with the usual EZee E-Commerce podcast, is I'm going to ask you 3 questions, very simple questions, and I would like you to answer each of them in 1 sentence.
Okay.
First thing that comes to mind, first thing about Zignify and about Sebastian. Question 1, what do you provide?
We help finding manufacturers for your dream products in any country of the world.
Why do e-commerce sellers need you?
Because finding manufacturers and negotiating takes a lot of time, which you can spend a lot better on sales and marketing.
And how do you do it?
We simply do the tedious work of researching, finding, contacting, negotiating tons of suppliers and making sure that the proposals are what you exactly need for an affordable price and good quality.
Okay. And then lastly, where can listeners find you online?
The best way on Zignify.net, book a time slot, or you may, of course, also contact me over LinkedIn. You'll see a guy, it's called Sebastian the Connector Hertz, or I believe Bryce will also be easily able to connect to one another. And yeah, through us as partners, there's always a way to find one another.
Thank you so much. And we really loved having you on our podcast. I think the amounts of value and experience that you bring, not only to the product sourcing industry, but the e-commerce industry itself, is incredible. I mean, also following your work and how active you are on LinkedIn and the thought leadership that you provide. I think not only the services that Zignify can provide, but the services that and advice that you can provide from your experiences is next level. And we truly do appreciate having you on our podcast. We look forward to the next one.
Thank you very much as well. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching the EZee E-Commerce podcast. Click here for more episodes and follow us on our socials linked below. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe.